Hi there. I am really excited to introduce you to Cate Cook, who is an astrologer and midlife alignment coach. She supports women who feel confused and frustrated with where they find themselves in midlife. She helps them gain clarity on their purpose so they can align with and style the life they were born to live. Kate, what good work. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Thanks. I am so excited to be here.
There's a lot of different directions to go in, and I think the idea of purpose is a really good one to start with. But I just have to say, I was on your Instagram page before we got connected here this morning, and great page, so much information. But on there, you were talking about the energy of yesterday,
Hmm.
which maybe I will cut this because it's actually not even to the point of in a month from now.
Hmm.
So let me just say this one thing, and then we'll start
Okay.
over a little bit. Silly. I yesterday I felt fatigue like I have never felt. I'm not usually one to feel a lot of fatigue during the day. I could hardly, it was like painful levels of fatigue. And I heard your post. I was like, oh, maybe that had something to do with that. Like it didn't feel like
Ah,
sadness, but it was weight.
well, and it just depends on what you have, because this
Cancer,
was you are, oh my gosh. Oh, when is your birthday?
June 24th.
No way. So is mine.
No way.
Oh my gosh. I knew I liked you. Um,
Wow, that's fun.
yeah, so I felt it it was so potent for me. And normally not every, I obviously we are moon children. We are very affected by the moon. It's the ruling planet of our sign. And but this full moon happened to be in Gemini, so the sun is in Sagittarius, and it's going across the zodiac to Gemini, where the moon was. And right in back of the moon, because when the moon was coming around, it actually eclipsed or conjuncted really the planet Mars. And Mars is all about anger, aggression, war. It's the planet of action. And I mean, we all have Mars somewhere in our chart, and Mars isn't necessarily always bad, even though it is the lesser malefic planet. Saturn is the greater malefic planet, meaning that it's restrictive. It's usually bringing something bad, or something challenging into the mix. So when you have the planet Mars, which is all about anger and aggression and things like that, um, conjunct the moon, which is all about your emotions and your intuition and things like that, it can be a very volatile emotional day. So whether you felt just so drained, um it was just zapping the energy right out of you. And I just felt like crying all day, and I was like, what
Interesting.
is up? But I also have my natal Mars in Gemini as well, so I had like this double whammy of Mars with the moon, and I was a wreck. I'm like,
Wow.
what the
Mhm.
heck? So today I'm like, all right, it's still technically a full moon,
Yeah.
but it's starting to wane. And even just knowing, I think that's what is so helpful for a lot of people, is that if you kind of understand there's a reason to what you're feeling, that usually there's something that is causing you to, um I don't know, just kind of be not yourself, and you're wondering what's up. It's helpful to know what that is, or what's making you do that.
Totally. When at times my sleep will be disrupted and I'll kind of be backtracking myself and like, what was my day like? Did I have caffeine too late? Did I have too much caffeine? Am I ramped up? Am I anxious? It's kind of a lot of like inner critic
Hmm.
talk. And then I can follow, people that I follow in astrology and they'll say like sleep may have been light on last night because of these occurrences. It's like, oh, that makes so much more sense. And it relieves a lot of like the blame or the onus being on just one person, right?
Right. I noticed that I do have difficulty sleeping like the week of the full moon. A couple days before, a couple days after. I'm just not, I don't sleep as soundly.
Yeah. Yeah, the
So,
impacts are amazing. So tell me, let's just start
yeah.
with like, I know you've been into astrology for decades. Um, Tell me like how you got started and what your own trajectory with becoming such an expert was.
Well, it's always been an interest of mine. I mainly because my grandmother, well, actually, it's in my chart, so I was born to do this, but my grandmother who lived with us was into that. And this was back in the day when, you know, people would send out astrology magazines. And so I would get the mail for her and I'd be like, oh, what's this? So I'd go upstairs to give her her mail and then I'd sit there with her and read these astrology magazines with her. So I was always into it. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago where, so anytime, first of all, back it up, you know, sometimes when things don't make sense going on in your life, like my husband lost his job, couldn't get another job for several years. I mean, it was
Mm.
just, it was so scary. And there was no reason behind it. I mean, he's an intelligent, very intelligent man with several degrees, um, honest, hardworking. There was nothing, no flaw. Could not find a freaking job for a while. And when things don't make sense, I look at astrology and I'm like, all right, what's going on here to shine some light on this situation? And yeah, well, he had Pluto, the planet of major transformation, death and rebirth, basically. It was transiting, and it transits a house for like 15 to 30 years.
Wow.
Okay, so because it's far away, it goes very slowly through each house. And it was just going through his house of finances for a long time. And it's like a slow moving tornado that went right through. And we're still there. He's almost out of it. But anyway, so I started getting more into it, starting to research more things and really get into it. And then I was also going through a rebranding for my beauty blog that I had. And the woman that was helping me through the branding process was asking me questions like, what is a thing that you do that all time and space stops and you forget to eat, you forget to go to the bathroom? What are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm looking at astrology charts. I'm like reading books on astrology, and gosh, maybe I'm even listening to astrology podcasts. And I was just like, but what does this have to do with my beauty blog? And she's like, well, I don't know, that's a part of your brand, so you better figure that one out. And that's when I started to get more serious. I'm like, all right, well, maybe I can help people, because I always felt like, I'm always volunteering with my family, like, well, did you know this is what's going on right now? And they're all kind of like rolling their eyes, like, whatever, mom. But it's, I, I just found it to be so helpful because it's so enlightening. It kind of, some of the things that I didn't really understand that I was good at, I could see it so much clearly when I look at my chart, or when I look at other people's charts. People take certain things for granted, that they think, well, everyone just does this. No, everyone does not. And that is a special gift that you have. It's called a trine. Or in your chart, there are certain aspects that make certain things just are so easy for you, and you take them for granted because you don't because it comes easy. It's
Mhm.
not something that you have to try real hard at, or it's just like an innate talent. And anyway, so I love looking at people's charts and kind of just showing them that, did you know that this is a part of what you're supposed to be doing? Or did you know that a part of your purpose is to be helping, this type of individual or in this way? And what I find interesting is that, or how I even get into this midlife alignment, is because I've started to notice that a lot of people in my age range, well, especially like anywhere from 40s till like 60-ish, 60 plus, really feel, is this all there is? They might have had a career that lit them up at one point in time that doesn't really feel that anymore, or their kids have grown and flown. And they just start to think, really, is this all there is? I feel like I've got so much in me. I've always had a desire for blank, you know, but why would I do that? I have this great career or whatever. And how am I too old to start something new? And what I find out is that when you're looking at someone's chart and you can see that there are certain things that they are supposed to be doing, and if you don't feel lit up by what you are doing, it's the universe telling you that, you know what, you're not you're not there. You're not exactly what you're supposed to be doing, because if you are going to feel very lit up, very, jump out of bed with energy, um, and filled with purpose. And I just feel like it's a necessary nudge that some people need, just to say it's okay. This is this is what you want to do, but God does not put that desire in your heart just for fun. Like it's there on purpose.
Mhm.
So
And so I've heard discussions about like, well, we're not here just for one purpose, right? Or there can be
mhm.
seasons where our purposes change. How does that fit in with astrology?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We all have more than one purpose, clearly. And you're right, it does change as the seasons change. And what I find so interesting is, even like the planet Uranus, which is really like the change agent. You know, it really will spark, like, okay, sometimes it's a sudden change, like a sudden, like something happens where maybe you get fired from your job, or maybe you quit your job, like just like, okay, I can't take this anymore. And but it there's always some kind of nudge in the direction of where you're supposed to be. I feel like a lot of these transits that happen from the outer planets really spur some major life-changing episodes that will make someone want to have a new career change. But and then they'll struggle with it. A lot of the struggle comes from not just kind of falling into it, or not really just accepting it, because they say, no, 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 this is how I make my money. I've been doing this forever, and I can't possibly, change anything now. Um, but yes, you're right. It can happen. And you'll see that through a transit,
That's
usually
interesting.
with an outer planet.
I find it so freeing because for a long time I was taught to like figure out my purpose, and that's such a daunting task, right? Maybe because I hadn't seen an astrologer about my purpose, but just for one person to try to figure out what their purpose is can be hard. And when when I heard from somebody that we can have multiple purposes at different times, it was like, oh, okay, that's so much more
hmm
freeing.
Yes, we do have multiple purposes. There's a number of ways. I do have a free thing that I give out all the time that is really about, and I guess we could link that in your show notes, but about how to find your purpose. I mean, there's different ways to do it, whether it's astrologically or just trying to feel into it, because our intuition and our heart's desire really says a lot about that purpose.
Hmm. Hmm.
And like you said, it can change for different seasons of your life. It can evolve and change. But when you look at someone's chart, their rising sign, or the sign that was present in the first house at the moment you took your first breath, that will have that's like your overall life theme that you'll see repeated throughout your lifetime. Might have something to do with um, money, right? That you're always trying to get a job, keep a job, change your job, whatever. It might have something to do with relationships. You'll notice that your life theme keeps coming back up, where you might have relationship struggles, or struggles with friends or career, or passions, or you'll see these same life themes, every, I don't know, once in a while when a transit will activate it, you'll see these things come up and over again. You'll also see for life purpose where your north node is, your north and south node. That has a lot to do with your life direction and the area that you are supposed to be evolving and growing into. You know, like your south node, wherever that is in your chart, is something that you came with, like innate talents. You know, if you believe in past lives or not, sometimes it could just be related to things earlier in this lifetime that you are trying to shed or let go of. And then your north node is like a new energy that you are trying to grow towards. It feels strange. It feels unnatural because, you know, you haven't done it before and you are trying to learn how to get there. And so wherever that is in your chart, you know, that gives you some more information on what your purpose is.
So you have this resource on your website?
Yes. I mean,
Or we will
I do
link.
this. I can link it. Yeah.
Great,
Right.
fantastic. So and also at the end of this show, we'll definitely make sure Kate gives us all the important information of how to follow her and find all of her good stuff. She's a beautiful website full of really good stuff. So we have to remember to do that. Um, I know that there are people that are listening to this who, you maybe know what their sun sign is and maybe mostly poo-poo astrology or want to know what the science behind it is. Um, how do you respond to that? Astrology isn't new.
Astrology is not new. It's been around for at least 8,000 years. I mean, there's documentation on you know, that this goes back predating religion. But it's, you know, when people ask me, well, how does it work? I mean, I also like to say, first of all, just think about the fact that about 500 years ago, well, maybe it's 600 or 700 years ago. Anyway, still in the recent past, as far as you know, the how long the planet's been alive.
Yes.
But we thought the world was flat
Yeah.
that, you know, 500 years ago, right? We thought that if we sailed a boat too far into the ocean, we'd fall off, right? And it's there's now we realize that there are other dimensions. You know, we live in the third dimension, but there's a fourth and a fifth, and you know, I think it goes up to the 10th as far as we know. But it's pretty fascinating when you do understand astrology and how everything is, because everything is so connected. This is an Einstein thing, you know, that everything is connected. And when you see how something, you know, if there's a planetary change in the sky, on how it affects different people based on their specific charts. Not everyone is going to feel it. Not everybody, you know, like the astrology has become kind of a you know, entertainment thing in
Yeah.
the newspaper where you look up your sun sign, which honestly, if I ever look up anything in the paper, which I think that's just so basic that it doesn't really say much about astrology or really give you the full picture. But I would look at your rising sign.
Hmm.
Okay, look at your rising sign; it'll make way more sense. Um, but uh, but but astrology is almost like looking at or listening to the weatherman give you a weather report and said that this is what's going on this week in the stars in the sky. And based on these planetary transits and based on your chart, these are some of the things that you could be feeling. These are some of the things in the different areas of your life that could be affected. And it's kind of like, you know, giving you that awareness of what's going on. Does that mean that you're fated to get into a car accident? No. What it's saying that the energy is ripe for this to happen or that to happen or whatever. and it's really based on your specific chart. It's not everybody that has a sun in Cancer, or everybody that has a moon in Gemini, or everybody, like, it's very specific on where this is going to be playing into your own personal chart. So and what I find interesting too, when we were talking about how does this all work, people were using astrology for, like I said, at least 8,000 years. And it was right around, I think it was in the year 313 when Constantine was emperor, and he was trying to take the power away from the people. So he said that because people were using astrology, everyone who was a doctor needed to have a master's in astrology, because this is how, this is predating x-rays and blood tests and things like that. So if you needed to know what was ailing someone, you needed to understand astrology, because that's how you're going to diagnose them.
Wow.
If you were it didn't matter what your profession was. If you were a professional, you had a knowledge of astrology, because again, this all went hand in hand with everything that we did. So Constantine comes along and decides that no, he is going to take the power away from the people, because they know too much. When people understand themselves, knowledge is power. When you understand yourself and you understand how other people are ticking, that kind of takes away their power. People ruling the land, the king, the queen, the emperor, whatever, the pope.
Yep.
So they just said that it is going to be banished. All astrologers were to burn their libraries. And so then it was kind of done behind the scenes. It wasn't until like the 60s, 70s, I think, that this all started to come back, maybe even a little bit earlier than that. But, it was for a long time, it was told to people that if you were a Christian, especially, that you were banned. It was taboo to study astrology or to believe in astrology. But coincidentally, which I think is kind of funny, the Catholic Church especially, but the Christians use astrology to this day to decide when Easter is going to be. Because I think Easter is the first full moon after the spring equinox. Okay. This is how Easter is determined every year, based on the lunar calendar. And so it's pretty funny. And most of the house systems in astrology, there's Placidus and Coke and and Porphyry, and there's all these different house systems. But guess what? These were all invented by Christian monks. Okay. Mm-hmm. So so when people say, I don't, believe in it, or it's against my religion. I mean, I respect that if people have, whatever, but it's just so funny because it was all based in religion, and actually predated religion. So
I think it's fascinating. And really what this says to me is this process that we've gone through of becoming really disconnected from the natural rhythms, whether it's our own cycles as women or the moon cycle, has done such a disservice to us, and we've lost touch with like who we really are. And I love that you're doing this work and bringing it forward to people. I'm also excited to talk about, I know you said it's a great predictor, it's a great reflector for the past, but I know you've also mentioned how you help people like find their purpose, and you have this program where you're helping young people figure out like what would be the best thing to major in and focus on in college, which I think is just so brilliant. So will you say a little bit about that?
Sure. As I'm helping a lot of middle-aged women who are looking for their purpose, or want to make a career change, or just trying to, figure out what's next. A lot of them were the ones that came to me and said, can you even see like what my son or daughter should be doing in college? And I'm like, absolutely, you can see that. And because you can see career, And you can see also the ninth house of astrology is all about higher education. So you can see where they would excel and topics of that would be of interest. You can also see other parts in the chart where your passions lie. Because any of us who have like a really, who are going to be really good at anything that we do, there's a passion behind it. And like I said earlier, I don't know if this maybe not in this call or whatever, but God would not put a passion in your heart if it wasn't meant to be used. One of my favorite books called The War of Art. Have you
Yeah.
read that with
I,
Stephen Pressfield?
yes.
Um, but he talks about, that the passion in your heart or is there for a purpose, and that is a part of your purpose. If you feel something so strongly, or if there's something you're really attracted to and just mesmerized by, that's a part of why you're here, is to either bring that forth or to explore it more, understand it more. So in where was I going with that? With the choosing your college major on purpose. So I did put together a little micro course for the non-astrologer. This is for people that know zippity doo, like nothing about it, other than maybe what their sun sign is. And so what I did was I just picked out all of the houses, like the money houses, the career house, the passion house. And and of course, like sun, moon, rising, which are very, important to who we are. That's our primal triad. Um, and I put that all together with like a kind of a walkthrough, like, look at this house. What do you have there? I've got all the planet signs and houses, already done. So it's kind of like a plug and play. I teach you how to open up your, figure out, look at your chart, and then walk through all those steps to determine, and then kind of like I've got a workbook, so you just kind of jot down what it says, because it's already spelled out.
I love
It's
it.
yeah.
I just love this because it just speaks to what I was saying about we've become really disconnected from who we are, and it's one thing that's an experience that a lot of us in our 40s and 50s go through. But what
Mhm.
a gift when you're 18, 19, 20 to really get an understanding of like who you are in this way.
Mhm.
Like you call it your soul's blueprint, and I've heard you say that there are no two people on this planet that are alike. We're like
Mhm.
snowflakes in that way. And so I'd love to hear you say more about that. But what I'm excited about with this course, and because I have a freshman in college, like I just think it's so cool to, she would do so well knowing this about herself. We're in an age where, talk about being disconnected from ourselves, right? The raising kids at the time of cell phones is a whole different thing.
It exactly. And I think if anything, sometimes we just need that validation,
Yeah.
right? That so in my research too, that there's 80% of college students change their major at least once during their college career. Okay.
Yep.
So that means that people go into it saying, oh yeah, well, I think I want to major in this because I'm good at science class, so I'm going to major in biology or whatever. Or my dad's a doctor, or my mom is an accountant, or whatever. And so it's familiar, or you just think of, I don't know, maybe I'm going to a school and that's what they're good at. I don't know, or what they're known for. But there's a lot of it's really difficult, especially when you've got various interests in things. And here's the other problem, is that things are moving along so fast with technology and with new careers developing. A lot of the people who are in high school today, their their future career has not even been invented yet,
Yep, totally.
right?
Hmm.
So by knowing like what the basics are on where you were meant to shine, like what is the gift that you're supposed to share with the world, I think it is just so helpful to give you that validation, or just to go. And here's the thing, you would like when you're going through this course, there's no one that would ever be like, that makes no sense to me. Like it would confirm a lot. It confirms a lot. Now, I was also looking through, so I have 5 kids, and 3 of them have already gone through college. Well, 2 of them are married. One of them has a master's degree. And I was looking through theirs just for the heck of it, just trying to validate as many other charts as I see. And my 2 daughters, spot on exactly what they're supposed to be doing, what they were supposed to major in. They hit it. Then I'm looking at my sons and I'm like, wow, it's saying that he should be no, first of all, he has spina bifida and he wears leg braces, but he's always been really, really, really like into sports, like very much, if he could be a baseball player professionally or a football player, like you name it, basketball player, he's very athletic, even though his legs don't work as well as other people's. Okay. So he could never do that. But I see in his chart that he is supposed to be helping, mentoring, coaching, inspiring others through sports or in some kind of a maybe even like a management type position or something like that. And I said, oh, but he was a biology major and he's got a master's in bioenergy.
Wow.
Okay. So I'm like, wow, Nick, like this didn't really work out. Like that's not, like it doesn't work with what you actually ended up doing. He goes, Mom, don't you remember when I was applying to schools, I was seriously considering doing sports management. That was what I wanted to do. But I didn't do it because I was afraid that there wouldn't be any jobs when I got out. I thought it would be highly competitive and I just wanted to take the easy route or the route of where the wind was at my back. Okay. So I thought that was pretty interesting because I did remember that once he brought that up, that's where his heart was. And I can bet you that at some point in his life, he's going to return to that. There's going to be something that kind of nudges him in that direction.
And do you think, to the point of like, this is your blueprint and your purpose, do you think that the wind may have been more at his back pursuing the sports management or something in that line versus science?
Yeah, I think that when we are living our purpose, we are, or I should say, if we're not living our purpose, there's a hole in the universe where we were supposed to be. Okay. Because we are all connected and we all have a very integral, like very specific role to play in this whole, in this whole thing. And I think that that's when you feel the dissatisfaction later on, or like that nudge, like, okay, so I might be doing okay financially, or this career might have been, somewhat enjoyable. It's not like this has been a horrible thing for him. Um, but the core of who he is, the thing that really lights him up and the thing that really makes him excited about getting up in the day is really not biofuels. I'll tell you that. He lives and breathes sports, and I could just see him just being a very inspirational mentor, coach, manager. I could see him doing that at some point in the future.
So cool.
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, it
Yeah.
makes sense when you describe who he was as a little boy, right?
Mhm.
But then to also lay that, to lay his chart on top of that and have that confirmed is really remarkable.
Mhm.
And I bet that's pretty common. I think that's what you said. Like when people hear what their blueprint is or supposed to be doing, there's an immediate like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Right. There's
Yeah.
no one that looks at it and says, nah, that I have no idea what you're talking about.
So
Everyone's
cool.
like, oh yeah, there's a reason for that. And it's yeah, I was looking at another woman's chart, and and I knew what she did because she had a totally different career. And I said, by the way, I just see that you have, like, you're really creative, right? Like, you're really a creative person. And I see that you have an interest in maybe, I don't know, are you into like crafting or interior design or things like that? Do you like to kind of make your house look, a certain way? And she's like, oh my God, that has been my love. That's my passion. That's what I really always wanted to do. And I'm just doing this other thing. And I'm trying to
Mm.
get towards that. So it's so fascinating that we are who we are. And sometimes you just need that validation from, like, this is who you were born to be. And you have free will to decide what you want to do with that. You can choose to use it, or you can just sweep it under the rug and pretend it doesn't exist. But there's gonna be an overwhelming ache as time goes on. Like, why didn't I do that? Or why, why am I feeling this, you know, I don't know, like, not lit up or not excited
Mhm.
about.
Or even itchy
Right.
and antsy, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
Discontentedness, really.
Discontented.
Yeah. Interesting. Such a common feeling.
It is.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Hope you get to spread this so much more. Like, we could all
Yeah,
benefit from this. Yeah.
yeah.
Is there
Mhm.
anything that I haven't known to ask you that you think is important for people to know about astrology or your work with astrology?
Well, I think a common question that a lot of people who don't understand astrology will ask me, they will say something like, "Oh gosh, if you look at my chart, are you gonna like tell me when I'm gonna die? Or if something bad is going to happen to me?" I'm like, oh my gosh, that's not what I'm looking at. I'm looking at, and even so, I mean, you could see with with specific transits if you might have a health issue or whatever, but that doesn't necessarily mean are you going to die. It's it you know Again, this is almost like a weather report. Like, if we can see if there's going to be a tornado watch or a tornado warning, but we don't know if a tornado is going to rip down your house, right? We
Yeah.
don't know that.
Mhm.
So it's just kind of I like to use astrology as really more of lifting someone up, making someone feel either validated or inspired or hopeful. I feel like it's almost like shining a light in a dark tunnel for someone who's going through a difficult time.
Mm.
I was helping another woman who she was just going through a really dark, like, you know, dark night of the soul type of thing. And before our session, I was looking at her chart. I was kind of looking at her secondary progressions as well as some of her transits, just to get a lay of the land. Like, what is she feeling right now? So when I met with her and I told her that this is, I explained how I think she was going to be feeling and what she was going through. But here's the good news. I could see that because of the transits, when the way they were moving, that in 4 months' time, she was going to be out of that situation.
Wow.
And I gave her a specific date, and she said, "Oh my gosh, that's the date that we're closing on our new house." And you could just see her whole everything just lift. Like, she just felt, you could just see her like sit up taller and just feel like I just shined a light, in a dark tunnel, and just said, here, you could, here's the light. You're not going to be in this spot for much longer. Like, hang in there. This is how you're supposed to utilize this time. I think you should be writing. I think you should be journaling because of where her placements are. And I said, this is going to help you feel better. It's going to help you get through this. You are meant to be doing this right now. You're supposed to be releasing some things. You're supposed to be having a lot of introspection right now. Don't dwell on the negative. Just really, you know, get to know yourself a little bit better and realize that this is a necessary part of preparation for all the good that's about to come, that's right around the corner. So, and
How
so it was just,
hopeful.
Oh my gosh. So I just felt so good about that session too. And that's what I love about what I do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
I can
helping
see.
people like feel better.
How often do you recommend people have their chart read?
Well, I think it's good to have a general chart reading just to look at your natal, your soul blueprint, just to understand yourself really well. What makes you tick, why you might be a little bit on edge, or maybe you have a potty mouth or a wicked sense of humor or whatever it is. I mean, sometimes it's so funny and how all the specific um, twerks, that
Mhm.
you can see in someone's chart. You can see when someone's been adopted. You can see, things like that. Like their birth mother was just the vehicle to get them here, but they were meant to be with this other person who adopted
Mm.
them. So I think it's just so beautiful, like for people to know that, there's no accidents. Like everything is here to help you be who you said you were going to be when you came here. And so yeah, it's just, I think it's beautiful, the whole thing.
I love the way you explain it. I'm hooked. Sign me up. Sign me, my family up.
Mhm.
I'm like, all these people are going through my mind that, like, yes, we all need this. So good.
Yeah, and then you're doing your solar return chart, I think is a good thing to do, once you've had that lay of the land with your soul blueprint. But your solar return is more of an event chart, like your natal blueprint or your soul blueprint is just like, who are you? Who is Emily? You know, and then but your throughout your lifetime, what's your purpose, what are your gifts and talents, what are some of the challenges that you need to overcome, but then your solar return chart is the day, usually, I mean, it could be the actual day of your birthday, or it might be the day before, the day after, but very close to your actual birthday. It's when your sun returns to the exact degree that it was the moment that you were born. Okay, so this happens once a year. And but your chart will look a lot different than it does than your soul blueprint will, because all those other planets are constantly moving as well. And the planets won't be in the same alignment that it was on your birthday for 25,000 years. Like, I mean, it takes 25,000 years to all come back to the same spot. That's why we are all so unique, right?
Yeah.
And so having your solar return chart done is really just like an event chart that gives you a glimpse into the year ahead.
Oh,
Who are you going to, what's your focus this year? What are some of the things that, some of the challenges? I mean, there's always, good aspects and more challenging aspects, like every year. Like there's no year that it's 100% good or 100% bad, right?
yeah.
But it kind of gives you that lay of the land, like what is going to be your focus. And it's I don't know, I think it's fascinating. So that's always good to know.
Return to. And when you say what
Mhm.
the year is going to be like, it's based on your birth year, right? So that's a great birthday present to give yourself. Yes?
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
See, I'm planning ahead already.
Yeah. And I know when your birthday is.
Yes, you
What
do.
year, if you don't mind me asking, what year were you born in?
1974.
Okay, so yeah, you're much younger than me.
Am I?
Oh yeah, I'm 66.
Oh my gosh. I would
Yeah.
wait. Yeah, you guys have to check out the video of Kate. She looks like she's a contemporary. She looks 48.
Yeah, thank you.
Must be
Um,
all that good beauty counter.
you know what? It is. I've got to say, you've got to stick with healthy, clean um, beauty for
Yeah,
sure.
makes a big difference.
And what you eat, how you exercise, all that is very important.
Okay, so this brings me to my final question for you, which is, do
Mhm.
you have a morning routine? And if so, what does it look like?
I absolutely have a morning routine. Every day that that I wake up, I begin the day with uh, 10 to 20 minutes of meditation. And before I really, I'm a coffee girl. I love my coffee. But before I get all caffeinated, I think it's so good to just, kind of, while you're still a little sleepy, kind of just plug in to God, really. Because and I do my prayer. I do my prayers asking for, divine guidance and protection for myself, for my family. I will offer up prayers to people that I know that are going through difficult times, and for the world, right? I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world that we need to pray for. But I believe that, prayer is talking to God, and then meditation is having God talk to you. So I just like to, kind of tap in and ground myself for the day. And I think, and then of course I do work out as well, but that's after my coffee. Um, but I feel like it's that we need to do that, the whole mind body connection, prayer, meditation, and exercise are just so important to just feeling good. It's like my little blue pill. It's what makes me feel happy and energetic, and um, and whatever, because not every day, there's things that go wrong, or we have worries, we have um, resentments, we have all these things that come up,
Yeah,
and we need to help. And I think that the best way to navigate through all those things is to plug in to source. And
I love it. So good.
yeah.
So true.
Hmm.
Where can people find you, Kate?
My website is catecook.net. And I will also put in the show notes some of the different things, like if they have a college student or several college students, you could use the same thing over and over and over again for everyone that you know. But I can put my choosing your college major on purpose. I can also put links to, if you want to have your soul blueprint read. And I also do workshops, groups of, 6 to 10 people. And usually I do those in person, but I am also starting to do those online as well.
So
So,
fun. Fantastic. So it sounds like your
yeah,
website is the best place for people to get, I mean, show notes, there'll be links, and your
right.
website is a great place to get the overview. And then on Instagram, they can find you at
The real Cate Cook.
awesome.
So,
Thank you so much for your time. This has been a fascinating conversation, and we might have to circle back and have another one. There's so much good stuff here.
yeah, yeah, anytime, Emily. This has been great.
Cool.
So much fun.
Thank you.
All right.